Hello garden friends, Jersey Shore Lisa from MyNJGarden.com. Right now I'm on the south side of my house, very sunny area right here, and behind me you'll see a garden bed. Over here we have asparagus that has already ferned out and it's doing its thing. It's typically surrounded by wasps because there are little tiny larvae of what I think are asparagus beetles that hang out on the asparagus, and the wasps hunt them down in there every day. And there's also some oregano, and there's a pineapple sage here in the bed. All of this is going to get renovated today. And the reason for that is last week or the week before, I had a friend. He is a pest control specialist. And I actually called him and had him come by to take a look around the property and offer me some solutions about what to do about the fact that we have a lot of black widows here. And black widow spiders are very dangerous for small children, older adults. They're very dangerous for anyone because they have a venomous bite and it's very painful, and the venom has been compared to rattlesnake venom as far as the effects that it can have on a human being. So there are neurotoxins involved. I don't want to have to deal with that, but I garden for wildlife a majority of the time. So I certainly don't want to impact beneficial wildlife in my yard to a great extent. And I want to have as little intervention as possible from my end, and yet I do want to protect my family and myself, especially when I'm enjoying my property and trying to garden and not get bit. So I did have him come by, and he was excited at the prospect of capturing a black widow spider for his collection. When he came by, he said, "Oh, do you think we'll be able to find any?" And I said, "Dan, give me 5 minutes. We'll be able to find one." And I came over to this section of the yard and knocked off the covering bricks that are now laying on the ground in front of this bed. And within 3 bricks, we found black widow spiders. And that is more my fault than anything else. By setting up my garden bed in this way, I created the exact habitat that black widows love, which is warm, sunny, and yet they want the little dark, hidey hole places. So by creating these little caves and this black widow condo, essentially, they moved right in. So within a 10-foot space, he found 5 big black widow spiders to take home with him happily for his collection. In seeing that, I didn't realize how bad it actually was. So what I'm going to do to deter them from inhabiting my property is to reduce that habitat. And yet, this is a beautifully sunny area of my yard, and I want to take advantage of this space. So I could just clear everything out and have this area be barren and not plant here. But number one, this is a sloped area and I have very sandy soil, so we'd suffer from terrible erosion if there was nothing there. I don't really want to put hardscaping because I have pipes, sewer lines that go under this area of the property, and that would all have to get ripped up if anything ever happened that the sewer lines needed to be addressed. So my solution will be to create a different kind of a raised bed situation here and remove those hidey hole crevices where black widows love to hang out. So I bought a couple of new metal raised garden beds that are working out beautifully for me in the backyard. I've decided to have 2 of them here along this wall, and I think it's going to be a really beautiful solution. It's going to help me to combat the erosion that this area would be prone to and reduce those little hidey hole black widow habitat spaces that I've inadvertently created along this side of the house. I'm gonna dig up these plants. I'm gonna set up the new garden bed, replant the plants that I have here, and hopefully establish a really beautiful new area of the yard. As I'm pulling away the bricks from this area, you can see what I'm uncovering. Some of the bricks I had filled up with sand because I realized what was happening, creating that habitat for the black widows. But I just didn't have enough sand when I was doing it in order to fill up those holes in the brick. But you can see as I uncover the soil of this garden bed, again, my native soil is incredibly sandy. It's pure sand. I have been layering compost and mulch over this area of the garden for years now, since I planted the asparagus, and that would be 2016 or 2017. And you can see that the soil is definitely changing color here. You can see the increased organic matter in the soil. And the difference in color between the uncovered sand that was below those cinder blocks and the soil that was below the mulch in the bed. So that's really promising. I love that. And we're gonna continue to do that in the new raised beds. I told you I was gonna do it, and I did. In order to deter black widows from making homes in the cinder blocks that used to line the front of this garden bed here, all along the side of the house, sweat is dripping into my eyes because I've been working on this for hours. And thankfully, the sun is going down and it looks pretty cloudy out here at the Jersey Shore right now. So I haven't been suffering too badly from the heat from the summer, but it's just simple exertion that I'm not used to because I don't do this all the time anymore. My husband helped me build one of these beds today, and I built the other one. And I've removed all the plants that were in this area temporarily and dug out, actually, in order to level these beds, I trenched out the back because this is a very sloped area of the yard. So I trenched out the back to level them before I fill them up. And I would typically build these beds using hugelkultur, but I don't have an abundance of logs right now or sticks, but I do have a tremendous amount of unfinished compost and leaves. So before I fill these beds with soil and the rest, this is my soil, by the way. Can you see how sandy it is? It's just pure sand, folks. This is what we work with at the Jersey Shore. I am going to fill them with a tremendous amount of unfinished compost and then top it off with soil. These are the asparagus that I uprooted from that area. So these asparagus have been planted there for at least 4 or 5 years. I've been harvesting from them for at least that time. So they've been in the ground longer than that. But now we're hitting the reset button, everybody. So I'm going to plant these asparagus in these new beds, and I will not harvest from them for at least 2 years, and we'll see how they're doing. I am very conservative with the way I harvest asparagus. I barely take any because I want to make sure that the plants are doing okay more than I want to eat the asparagus. I love asparagus, but I never want to take too much. So the plants are robust and the root systems were robust, and they were doing really well. So I am going to replant those in these beds. I also have oregano that I potted up a few of them, but I have a lot that I just kind of ripped out by the roots, and those I'm gonna spread around throughout the asparagus. So we'll have asparagus coming up through the oregano. This is a pineapple sage that I pulled up, and that's all that was really in those beds. So that's what we're working on. I'm gonna fill those up now, and we will have new garden beds in my NJ Garden through the rest of the summer. I'm very excited. I think this is going to do a great job really cleaning up this area, making it look really good, and combating erosion in this area. It's always really hard because this is such a sloped area. I may even be able to establish some grass in front of these beds. I definitely won't have trouble with the black widows the way I was with my cinder block garden. So that's the goal. It's working out really well. So I've taken a lot of unfinished compost and put it into this bed. I used some of the sand that I excavated from the area as I was digging up the asparagus. I put that in. I put 5 well-established asparagus plants in this space. That might even be too crowded. This bed is 2 feet wide by 8 feet long, and then I put a Miracle-Gro potting mix bag that I just had on top of that. So they still need to be well buried, a few more inches in the soil, and I will work on getting the soil to do that tomorrow. It's starting to rain right now, so I'm fine with leaving them as they are. If it's too hot and sunny tomorrow, I will put pine straw mulch over the top of this until I get more soil to make sure that these plants are really well tucked in. This bed is not yet prepared for, I don't have the soil yet, so I have the rest of the asparagus plants. There are about 9 of them in here, so I'm gonna need another place in the yard for asparagus at this point. All my asparagus plants will not fit in those 2 beds, but that's fine. This is going to give them more space because all those plants were crammed into a much smaller area before, so I'm excited to see what happens to the asparagus now that I'm giving it appropriate spacing. But there are 9 plants in that wheelbarrow. I've put some pine straw mulch on top of them, and now I'm seeing lightning in the sky, so it's time to go. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Join me for all my garden updates. I'll give you an update when these beds are filled up and ready to baby those asparagus for the next couple years before I can pick from them again. Okay, bye-bye.